Hello, I am back today. I'm not quite too sure if this is working right. Um, ah, yeah, okay. Um, doesn't look like it. Okay, let me try this here. No. No. Okay. Yes, I should have this all figured out before I start streaming, but okay. Let's see if I can move this over a little bit. There. Okay. All right. So it's just me today. So I'm hoping that we will have a few others stopping by. Again, I'm not quite too sure as to what it is that we are going to be doing. I think oh, yeah, I forgot I was supposed to go. Moment. Okay, so I was kind of thinking that I might do a little bit of the advice stuff reading that I was doing last week, or the last stream that I did. And we'll just go through and we will start this out. Okay, let's see here. So here we have today's last Ask Amy column. So we have, Dear Amy, I have daughters and a son. All I have $2. Yeah, I've got $2. All are adults. I'm divorced from their father and I'm still single after 17 years since the divorce. My girls both remain in my life, the youngest especially. Chloe is always there for me. Nancy, the eldest, is like a cat towards me. She only makes time and effort for me if it's on her terms and if she is in the right mood, which is not very often. My son Bradley, however, completely avoids me. He never answers his phone if I call. He doesn't respond to contact from myself, his father, or his older sister, but he sometimes relates with Chloe. Now that I'm over 60 and have battled cancer, I'm feeling my mortality and starting to think about things like getting a will done. I'm a person of simple means, so there won't be much money left, but there will be a few $1,000s in a few 401k account and some life insurance money. My dilemma is, should I leave Bradley completely out of the will? It seems the sad, sobering thing to do, but it would be based on how he has treated me. Since Nancy is lukewarm towards me, should I leave her 1/3 and then 2/3 go to Chloe, who has been the most loving and giving child? I suspect that if I do even a three-way split, the girls, especially Chloe, will feel resentful to their deadbeat brother got anything at all. What do you think? Conflicted. Dear Conflicted, the daughter closest to you, Chloe, has already reaped the consequences and rewards of her behavior. She has a nice, positive, and active relationship with her mother. Your son, Bradley, has, through his own choices, been denied that. Estate planning can be a complicated business because it inspires some people essentially to reward or punish after death when neither you nor they can do anything further. Worrying about what others might think after you've died should be a non-starter. There is no right answer to this question. I totally agree with that. But in my opinion, you should leave an equal amount to all 3 children who came into the world loved equally by you. I agree with that as well. In addition to any funds, you can leave special material items to your favorite daughter or give them to her while you're still around to enjoy the relationship. You could also notify her ahead of time of your intentions and your reasoning. Talk things through, but no matter what, you should make the choice that feels the best, kindest, and most ethical to you. I think that that's pretty fair. First off, you should be talking to your lawyer or whoever it is that's setting up your will to see what they think, because writing out to an advice columnist just to be like, hey, what should I do here? I get in in a lot of cases that is what you're writing to an advice columnist, but not really about how you're going to leave your children their inheritance. I'm just gonna. Yeah, I have no idea about that. I can't spell, but whatever. Okie dokie. So now we're going to go on to the next one here. Dear Amy, my long-term friend decided to ghost me a few months after his wife went in for a routine heart procedure and tragically never woke up. Ooh. He was devastated, as was everyone that knew her. I know he has alcohol and drug problems. The last thing he told me is that he was chasing a widow in town who has a lot of money and that he was done with me. I asked, so this is the end of our friendship? He never responded. Many years ago, he sent me a piece of artwork he made out of wood. There are many hours of work that went into this. I don't want it in my house anymore. I thought about it donating to Goodwill here, but it's kind of weird and I doubt if they'd want it. I thought to simply mail it back to him with no explanation, but is that cruel? I thought to just burn it in my fireplace, but that seems hateful. I'm not actually angry with him, but I don't want this piece and I never really liked this odd thing very much. Do you want it? Wood burned. Dear Burned, you could try reaching out to this man one more time to see if he would like this piece you are returned to him. Keep your tone very neutral and tell him you are downsizing. Depending on his response, Goodwill will definitely want this item. I hope you chose to donate it. As someone who scours flea markets, secondhand stores, and Goodwill for homemade treasures, this piece actually sounds totally up my alley. Dear Amy, I snorted my coffee when I read your excellent response to Happy Teetotaler, the young woman who felt pressured to drink when going out. My favorite of your snappy excuses, I need to stay sober so I won't slip in your vomit later. Cleaning up, dear cleaning. I do enjoy some snap. That was actually one of the ones that I talked about, I think, on one of my first streams when I started doing these sort of little advice reaction things. Um, I wasn't quite totally happy, and especially with that particular one. But, hopefully the person who had written in did appreciate it and enjoyed it quite well. Okay. Now, oh yeah, it was up here at the top. This is how I. Okay. Oh. I haven't read this one. So this is from June 8th. Yes, okay, fine. I am so sick of all of these gambling advertisements that I'm seeing everywhere. They opened up access to the online betting and stuff here in Ontario back in, I believe it was April. and the ads are just ridiculous. I had actually seen a little Twitter poll that somebody I was following did, and they said, which do you think is, which do you find worse? The political ads or the gambling ads? We were in the process of the election at that point. So there were a lot more political ads than you would normally see. Basically, up here in Canada, it's none unless we're about, I don't know, maybe a month or so into an election, like at the beginning of an election, a month or so away from the election. But these betting ads, they're everywhere, and like it's really pushing a vice, and it's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, dear Amy, I'm from a small family. I have one brother, and while growing up, my two cousins, my aunt's sons, were like brothers to me. We always spent vacations, holidays, and family celebrations together. Fast forward 30 years, and we aren't as close as we used to be for various reasons. That's something that happens, like especially as people grow up. I have a few cousins that I was really really tight with when I was younger, and I really actually believe that a big part of the reason why we're not as close as we once were has to do with the fact that I'm not married with children. I have little doubt that if I did have kids, that I would be taking my kids up to see this family, even like the same way that my family did when I was younger. Alrighty. Anyway, so this person I relocated to the West Coast. Sorry. I relocated to the West Coast, and my family is in the Midwest. I see my parents and my brother often, but I haven't seen my cousins since the pandemic began because we both have differing opinions on vaccinations and social distancing. I believe in both. They don't. I don't really believe in them either, but that's my business. I do think that the social distancing helps. Like, I mean, if you're standing far away from each other, somebody, it's not going to be likely you're going to be breathing in their sneeze. But again, I am not an expert. I am not a doctor. Just go by whatever the recommendations in your area are. Our daughter is engaged, deeply in love, and very happy in an interracial relationship. My spouse and I are quite fond of our future son-in-law and his family. My dilemma is this. Both my cousins have expressed racist views and used racial slurs in the past. Well, how past is that past? My dilemma is this. I do not trust that they will be supportive of our daughter's marriage. I'm not comfortable with them attending her wedding. Should I call them directly and address the issues outright? Should I quietly not invite them? Honestly, I love my cousins, but I don't like them or their worldviews, and I don't know what to do. Stressed in the West. I feel in this case it would be better for everybody to not invite them, but let's see what Amy has to say. Excuse me. If you aren't comfortable in being in proximity to these men for health or cultural reasons, then follow your instincts. But I'm in favor of considering an invite for these two bozos. Right there, there's no reason for her to refer to these people as bozos. There just isn't. Or at least opening it up for discussion, because if your daughter and her fiance are hosting a family wedding, well, families are made up of all sorts of people, and sometimes these people are jerks, losers, and racists. There are many variables to ponder here, however, including how awful your cousins really are and how tolerant the bridegroom and his family are willing or able to be.
Or do you just want to invite them for a present?
I just, like... I can think of people who would fit into that category in my family, and they're not people that I'm particularly close with. So if I were getting married, I probably wouldn't have them there. There's just not a whole lot of point for that. Okay. Fortunately for you, this decision should be made by the marrying couple, so you can kick this in their direction. I suggest that you be completely honest with them. Bert and Ernie are the worst. They're racist fools, but they are my cousins. There, you have it. I don't really get that that's what the person was saying from there. Like, right here, this is when I think that Amy's being a little bit overly condemning. Anyway, let's continue. Your daughter and her fiance may not have any interest in or feel any obligation towards these family members, and if so, the decision is an easy one. Well, you know what? That's pretty clear right there. Like, I don't know what kind of connection that the bride, the daughter, has towards these cousins and their family, and she might not really know who they are and be like, why would I want these people at my wedding? The only way that I would think that this, I believe it's the father, is be having any say is if he's paying 100% for the wedding, because that's, to me, and this is actually a conversation that there was a different letter that we talked about that was similar to this. The people who pay for the wedding are the ones who really get to decide on the guest list. That's just my opinion. If your cousins don't make the list and you are asked why, you can tell them the truth. Your racist views knocked you off the invite list. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that, but that might be going through and working at trying to start some drama that I think would be unnecessary. You could easily say, like, unless, of course, it is going to be this huge wedding and every other member of your family is being invited except for these people. I do have to remind myself that this person did say that they are a small family. But it's easy to say, well, we were keeping it small. We didn't really want to have too much extended family there. And, like, I don't even know, because the guy's saying that, or the person has said that over the years that they've lost touch. So maybe these cousins would actually be pretty shocked to get an invitation. Maybe they might even be put out because they might feel like the only reason that they're being invited is to get some sort of gift. Right? Like, if there hasn't been a lot of contact, especially over the last 2 years, like, I think it might be a bit of a different conversation if it was the stressed in the West, if it was like their sibling, that may be a little bit more of a thing there. But, like, and I know that they said that these two cousins are like brothers to them. But again, like, time has gone by and touch has been lost. So I don't really see any issue with them not being invited. And I don't think that there's any necessary reason to go the whole truth and nothing but the truth. All right. Like, you can just say, over the last 2 years, we haven't really been close. I didn't think that you'd want to come. But maybe, like, I don't know, maybe not hide the fact that this marriage is happening, because, like, I think that then it might really seem whatever. I don't know. Maybe do whatever. Dear Amy, I have been friends with Penny for over 60 years. Last year, we had an argument over the phone regarding COVID vaccines. In addition to the risk factor of her age, she has health issues but is adamant anti-vaxxer. I was concerned for her health and told her she was wrong to not get vaccinated. Since that moment, we haven't texted or spoken. I feel sad about not contacting her, but notice she hasn't reached out to me either. I think she has written me off. Her birthday is approaching. Do I send a card? Yes. This is definitely a situation where I'm going to go through and I'm going to say you send the card. If you're feeling sad about not contacting her and you notice that she hasn't contacted you, now, unless your birthday has already passed and she hasn't sent you a card, definitely send a card. What's it going to cost you? You can go to the dollar store and you can get a card there. There are all kinds, like, you don't have to go out and spend $15 on a really fancy Hallmark card. But basically, it's the cost of the card and the postage. It's nothing. I would definitely say send that. Ex-bestie. Dear ex, your argument with Penny seemed focused on how receiving a vaccine would be in her best interest. Even though you framed your point of view as concerned about her, people don't like being told that their own health decisions are wrong. Putting aside the idea that vaccines can have a communal impact, when it comes to her own health, Penny's choice is her own to make. You seem to be against the idea of reconciling on the fence about being in touch at all, but I really don't see a downside towards reaching out. If you're truly done with this relationship, then you shouldn't have let this milestone day pass without reaching out. But surely, even though you two had an argument, aren't you on some level happy to see that this fellow human being, who according to you has health problems, has reached another birthday? I think that's really good advice in that. Really good. And the other part of it too, maybe this friend hasn't reached out. And again, there are ways to kind of keep tabs on people nowadays through like Facebook, Instagram, other social media, mutual friends. You can you would hopefully know this, but like maybe this person hasn't reached out because they didn't make their next birthday. Okay. Dear Amy, Torn described a long ago sexual relationship with his sister-in-law, which started when he was 15. I almost never agree with you because you obviously hate men, so I have to admit that I was shocked and surprised at your compassionate response to Torn. Yes, he was sexually exploited by an older woman. This was wrong, he is suffering, and you were right to recognize it. One of the men you hate. Dear one, I'll take the backhanded compliment and thank you for it. All right. And that's the thing, like she definitely has her, as I said, like she's overcritical at times. So, excuse me. You know what, let's actually... Let's see here if I can... Let's... Okay. Okay. Dear Abby, I am a gay man. A friend of more than 20 years, Marcy, passed away 8 months ago after battling cancer for 4 years. Just a month after the funeral, her wife, Julia, started dating. She was engaged 4 months later and married Leslie 7 months after that. When they started dating, Leslie was still legally married. My husband and I are godfathers to the one child Marcy and Julia had. I don't trust Leslie. I think she took advantage of a person who was grieving. She's a nurse and should know better. I don't like Leslie and I don't like her kids either. They moved into the house Marcy and Julia had built together just a few months after Marcy's funeral. I have pretty much removed myself from the situation. I no longer go to dinners or social gatherings with them. Seeing together makes my heart hurt and stomach ache. My husband still goes out with them and seems to have no issues with it. It has caused problems between us at times. He doesn't understand my feelings and can't understand how he can, and I can't understand how he can support them. Can you help me cope with this or tell me how I can get him to see my side and end the friendship? Still mourning, Marcy. I'm not sure if I should go on with this, if I should just read her reply or if I should give mine first. But you know what? Let's go through and see what Abby has to say. Dear still mourning, it might help your husband to be more sympathetic to your feelings if you'd explain that you're still in deep mourning over the loss of a beloved friend, and it affects you physically when you see Julia and Leslie together. He is able to support them because even though their relationship may seem premature, he recognizes that they have continued on with their lives. Now, hang on here. Let me go back up. So Marcy passed away after battling cancer for 4 years, and Leslie is a nurse. Did Leslie and Julia have any kind of connection prior to Marcy's death? Because I could see a thing where even just seeing each other on a regular basis, maybe they were always getting coffee at the same time or something. But I would say that maybe maybe they've actually known each other for a little bit longer. And I always kind of think about the term that apparently a lot of lesbians do. They have this term called U-hauling, and it's because a lot of times lesbians move very quickly into like relationships. Now, I'm not entirely sure how true it is. It's something that I had seen on TV. I do know a woman, and I asked her about it, and she said, "Oh yeah, it's true. That does." So maybe this is a case of that. Um, all right, so let's continue on with the response. A way to cope with your pain would be to make a conscious effort to forgive them for their haste and keep foremost in your mind that you promised Marcy you would be a godparent to her child. The most effective way for that to happen would be to be present in her child's life in a way that doesn't always involve the parents. Okay, I think that's probably some pretty good advice. I think that the writer, I think that they haven't moved on and they can't understand how somebody else could. When you have somebody who's battling cancer for 4 years, um, you probably have an idea of how it's going to end, and you may have even talked to your partner about what to do. For all we know, Marcy told Julia, "Listen, don't don't waste your time mourning me. Get on with your life. Find somebody else." Because that does happen. So I think that as much as I can understand the writer's issues, because like it's not easy to see somebody moving on with their life. I know of other people who have lost people and they've thought the same thing about what that person's spouse has done. Um, and especially in some cases because there was like a sister lost her brother, and then her sister-in-law got remarried, and now they don't really. I don't think that they have a lot of connection with their two nieces. So I can understand like there can be that kind of trickiness there, but I guess you just kind of gotta play it by ear and see how it goes. And unfortunately, if the other person chooses to move on with their life and they don't really stick with it, well, stick with you, that's something that you have to accept. Um, Unless there is some sort of real negative reason, I would say you always want to try to keep the door open for that person. Like, unless they really did something bad to you. Hey, don't be scratching that. The couch. Okay. Dear Addie, I have a coworker and a great friend who washes her hair maybe once a week and uses dry shampoo in between. One day I thought she had gray roots because the dry shampoo was so thick. So I guess that's why they have it in different colors. I know many people do this, but her hair is excessively oily and it looks unsightly and unprofessional when she comes to work. It has reached the point that several coworkers and even an ex-boyfriend of hers have asked me why she doesn't wash her hair more often because it always looks so dirty. Now, I know that there are a lot of people out there who only wash their hair once a week and use the dry shampoo, but I would think that if it's looking really like that, if people are looking at it and they're thinking like, geez, her hair's really looking rough there, um, maybe she does need to pick up her personal hygiene. I feel embarrassed for her, but I don't know how to bring it up and suggest that maybe shampooing off more often would be better. Even when we have a night out on the town and she has all day to get ready, she still shows up with her hair a greasy mess, slicked back in a clip. Maybe she doesn't realize the impression she's giving. Do I say something to her? Um, Friend who cares in Missouri. Dear friend, good friends take care of each other and watch each other's backs. If the situation were reversed, wouldn't you want to hear it from somebody you know who cares about you? I think that's probably a pretty fair advice there. Like it is pretty difficult to go through and to call out a person's hygiene. Like um, a question that I would have is this something that has been happening for like is this sort of a typical thing for her, or is this something that's only sort of happened over the last little while? Because if it's something that's only happened over the last little while, it's possible that maybe there's some depression or some other mental health issue happening. I tend to wear my hair back in a clip pretty much all the time, but it's not exactly dirty. And when it does get dirty, I can really feel it. Like if it's got, and usually that's if like I've done it up and I'm using some product or something in it. Righty. Let me click onto here. Well, let's check this one here. Social butterfly feels isolated by husband who avoids gatherings. All right. Dear Abby, social butterfly feels isolated by husband who avoids gatherings. Dear Abby, for the 30 plus years I've known him, my husband has never been social. When we were dating, he'd rather it just be the two of us and avoided parties, group outings, etc. Because of this, I have given up trying to go out with friends and even with his or my family members because he complains about having to go. When he does attend must-goes events such as Thanksgiving and Christmas, he'll say a few words to everyone, then sit quietly the rest of the evening looking bored. I have always been outgoing and social. I recently started working from home, so my workplace socialization has disappeared. I need socialization, and I don't know how to tell my husband that I'm going to start doing things without him. He will consider that I am abandoning him. What would you suggest? Social butterfly in Buffalo. Dear butterfly, you are not going to change your husband. Before you come completely isolated, start doing things without him. Leave him at home where he's comfortable. If he feels abandoned, quit making it your problem as you have before. You aren't joined at the hip, and isolation isn't healthy for you. Okay. A few months ago, my daughter told me she was with her boyfriend at the local bowling alley and they were kissing and hugging. When she went to use the ladies' room, she was advised by an older woman who proceeded to advise my daughter about the local family planning clinic, as well as offer her opinion that teenagers need to be very careful in their sex lives so they don't end up as young parents and derail their futures. While I believe the woman had good intentions, I also think that what she did was wildly inappropriate. I was tempted to report her to the police. What's your opinion? Should I have contacted and confronted this woman? None of your business. That's. I agree with the first sentence of that final paragraph. While I believe the woman had good intentions, I also think that what she did was wildly inappropriate. Why would you report her to the police? And no, I don't think that you should have contacted and confronted this woman. Like, she might have been out of line, but the best thing, at least I think, to do in a situation like that is to just ignore the woman and be like, yeah, okay, crazy woman, mind your own business. Dear NOYB, for you to have contacted the police or confronted the woman would have been extremely inappropriate. If your daughter and her boyfriend were putting on such a show for the other bowlers that an onlooker felt your daughter needed the information, she did your child a favor. An unintended pregnancy can indeed derail a young couple's future. I think that's probably a pretty big key right there. We have no idea what this kissing and hugging involved. Like, I remember one time I was at a club and I spoke to the security guard because I'm like, it looks like they're having sex over there. It really did. She was on top bouncing. Oh, and he's like, oh no, they're just grinding away. I'm like, okay, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they were having sex. So this PDA, well, it might have just been like hugging and kissing, all PG-13. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was bordering on NC-17. Dear Abby, I have a lovely collection of cloth napkins, but no longer use them for holiday meals because my son-in-law of 15 years began using them as hankies at my formal dining table. He actually blows his nose in them. This grosses us out, but I'm afraid to say anything for fear he will pack up my grandkids and that will be the last we see of them. He has a doctorate degree, so it isn't ignorance causing this. What would you do? Proper in Michigan. Dear Proper, what I would do is have a nice box of tissues at his place setting when he comes for dinner. Yeah, give him a roll of paper towel or something. Let's see here if we can get some Dear Prudence. Later, I don't want to subscribe to this. Okay. Help! I told my bum details about my boss's sex life. She called CPS. Woo! Now, I mean, it's one thing for, like, you to go through and do something like that, but for somebody else to just sort of up and do that based on something that you told them, that's a little wild. Okay. I'm a woman in my mid-20s who went online to make some fast cash outside of my full-time job, and I found it in the form of a cuck for hire. I answered a personal ad for a great couple only a few years older than me, Patty and Eric, and for the past year I've been getting $500 twice a month for an hour or two of work. There have been a few times where they schedule an extra session in a month where they pay $1,000 for overtime. Sessions happen like this. I play Eric's wife, coming home to find him in bed with another woman. I yell, get upset, and then am commanded to sit on a chair facing the bed. He ties me to the chair. I wrap my arms around the back while he wraps some rope around them without trying it, and proceeds to make love in front of me while telling me how much better Patty is than me. He does this solely by praising her. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She's the best I've ever felt. At no point am I insulted, demeaned, or degraded. I'm not involved physically, and I don't get aroused. If you say so. It's weird, I know, and I can understand why it would creep people out. It works for us, it's easy money, and I genuinely enjoy Patty and Eric. They're all around good people. I thought there would be an issue when my sister drunkenly spilled the beans to my mom, but my mom, while not particularly cool with it, accepted it. I don't get graphic, but I have talked about them to my family. The same way I talk about any coworkers. My niece's birthday party was over the weekend, and when complimented on my gift for her, I stated Patty had recommended it because their kids loved it. Fast forward to Wednesday morning. At my full-time job in a small family-owned business, the owner was being questioned by police for allegations of sexual abuse against their children. We were all shocked, but no more than she was. It was dropped quickly when she confirmed she has a wife, and the allegations were made against a mother and a father. When I told my sister about it later on, she burst out, I can't believe she actually did it. Prudy, my mother, called CPS on Eric and Patty for sexual abuse after being horrified to learn they have children. She didn't know their names, only that they were my bosses. Apparently, having someone watch you make love when you're childless is okay, but when you have kids, it turns you into a pervert. Their kids are never home during these sections, and I've never met better parents than Eric and Patty. There is absolutely no basis for these claims. My boss is confused and scared someone will come and take her kids, and I'm sick with my mother. What do? Do I tell my boss not to worry, that it was a case of mistaken identity and my mother meddling? Do I warn Patty and Eric? Do I contact the police or CPS myself, or wait in case they question me? Am I in legal trouble for prostitution and should avoid the authorities at all cost? Yeah, that's a pretty good letter. Mother's monstrous meddling. Dear Mother's monstrous meddling. As a parent with a same-sex partner, your boss is likely on high alert for any insinuation that there's anything untoward happening in her home, especially in this climate. Same-sex couples with kids are frequently targeted by malicious false reporting to CPS, and it can tie a family up for years and traumatize the kids. She's in a very precarious position, even though CPS is no longer investigating her. The threat alone is probably unbearable. So, should you let her know that it was a case of mistaken identity as soon as you can and assure her that there is no report targeting her? It will be a cold comfort, but it may take some of the edge off. Because this has gotten so out of hand, you may want to warn Patty and Eric as well. It doesn't seem like they're in danger, as there's no way for your mother to know who they are, but they need to know it may affect them how they proceed with your working relationship. They may decide that continuing to me is not a good idea on the off chance that your mother is able to put more pieces together. I'm not sure that contacting the authorities is going to help anyone in this situation. It's likely to make life complicated for you and possibly more people. However, you do need to have a conversation with your mother about trust and boundaries. This is more than meddling. The fact that she didn't tell you about her plan to contact CPS is troublesome. She surely believes that she did the right thing, and I'd be shocked if you came out of this conversation seeing eye to eye. But you need to know that you're safe sharing parts of your life with her. Lastly, I'd strongly encourage you to reevaluate whether you want to talk about this part of your work life with your family. They're not handling this information well, and as much as you may want to be open, you have to ask yourself whether it does more harm than good. Well, I think that that's probably some pretty good advice there. I think that the whole situation is kind of weird. Um, and I think today I'm going to call it quits here. I know it's not as long as I usually try to stream for on a Saturday. I usually try to aim for an hour and a half to 2 hours. But I just think that this is going to be it for today. So we will come back and we'll see you back here next week. I may be back down in my little basement cave and hopefully getting back to work on my Gundam. I haven't been able to work on him for a few weeks now, and I do miss it. So until next time, see you later.